greatest sports debate show on the internet.
Jalen Carter does not dive for his knee.
He grabbed his knee, though, which was
a dirty play. That was a football play.
You don't get to talk anymore.
Football play.
You don't get to talk anymore, sir.
Championship rings, starring Brandon Lewis.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions, and welcome to Championship Rings.
And Josh Ungar.
Buddy. So, who was right about the Indiana Pacers making it to the conference finals?
Well, let's see. Jalen Brunson gets hurt, and Alex Burke gets hurt, and Mitchell Robinson gets hurt, and Josh Hart gets hurt. You're the easiest road to the Eastern Conference Finals this side of the Boston Celtics. So, were you right, or was it the NBA gods saying, let Josh Ungar be the only person in the world to pick the Indiana Pacers?
Nope, I was right from the beginning.
Begins now.
It is a Tuesday at 6 p.m. This is Championship Rings in collaboration with the one, the only Voltage Live. I am Brandon Lewis, the host of Brandon's World. But if you can tell today, folks, that is not Mr. Ungar to the Max from the Sports Room Talk Show on the right side of my debate stage here. He is from Voltage Live. He is the host of the Fitz on Sports podcast. He is filling in for an ill Josh Ungar tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Sean Fitzgerald.
Award-winning journalist Sean Fitzgerald at that. How you doing, folks?
Sean, thank you for filling in. I called you in a little bit late notice. Thanks for being here today. Josh, we hope that you are feeling better next week so we can get to all the things going on in sports. Of course, as always, you can follow us here on Championship Rings, on X at Rings Champion, Facebook Rings Champion 216, Instagram at Rings Champion. But we got to get right to it because the NBA Finals are here. A finals that I do not think anybody in the universe predicted before the start of this NBA playoffs. Maybe you predicted one team or another, but I don't think you predicted
not Indiana, that's for sure. I didn't predict Indiana when we started this.
So it's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder, led by the NBA regular season MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, against the Indiana Pacers, led by Tyrese Haliburton, who, fun fact, also has a current shirt on WWEshop.com.
Hey, don't undersell Miles Turner, the pending unrestricted free agent.
Correct. So listen, I'll be honest. I'll go first here. I, on this show, have doubted the Indiana Pacers, as you saw in our opening video here for the last
year. Oh, yes.
I did not think the Indiana Pacers were very good. I still don't think they're very good. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't think the Pacers are a great team. I think if you look hard at the last two Indiana Pacers postseason, so 2 years ago, they faced Milwaukee in the first round. They faced them without Giannis Antetokounmpo. Damian Lillard takes them to 6 games in that series. The second round, as I mentioned in our intro video with Josh, in my opinion, the Knicks take them all the way to 7 games. Jalen Brunson breaks his hand in the second half of that game. They're without Mitchell Robinson. They're without Julius Randle the whole playoff run. They're without Burks, and they go out. And then obviously they get the injury bug in the Eastern Conference Finals because Haliburton goes out against the Celtics. This year, they face a Milwaukee team who, had Damian Lillard for maybe a half coming off the blood clot, and then obviously with the Achilles tear. In game 2, they face a Cleveland team without Darius Garland, without Evan Mobley, without DeAndre Hunter that turned the tide of that series. And then here's the thing about this Knicks series. The Indiana Pacers, counting the comeback they had in game 5 against Milwaukee, the comeback they had in Cleveland in game 1, and the comeback they had against the Knicks in game 1.
They had comebacks every game, it felt like, against Cleveland, that whole series.
They won 3 games this postseason, trailing by 8 points with under a minute or a minute left to play, which I think teams were like 1 in 2,000 or something like that in those scenarios. And especially in the Knicks and the Cleveland situation, even in the Milwaukee situation, they needed multiple free throws from guys who can make free throws like OG Anunoby, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley to clank off the back iron for them to get an offensive or defensive rebound and be perfect execution down the stretch. With all that being said, you got to give credit to them. They're here. But the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I'll get into this in a minute after I let you give your prediction for the series, they've been the best team in the NBA this year from top to bottom. They're going to win this NBA championship. They're going to do so in 5 games. The way I see this going down, they're going to go up 3-0. They're going to punt game 4. Indiana is going to blow them out. They could blow them out by 50 that game. Similarly to what Minnesota did to them in game 3. I don't think they care. I think they're going to want to win it in front of their hometown crowd on the Monday night, game 5. That's the way I see this. Monday, June 16th, we will crown the 2025 NBA champion. The NBA Finals MVP will also be the NBA regular season MVP, and it will cap off one of the most historic seasons we will have ever seen from any player in the history of the NBA.
Man, I mean, just think about it. Sam Presti in 07 really started it all with this trade with Steve Kerr. There was an article in The Athletic that I was reading up on earlier. I would encourage you, if you guys have a subscription, go read that. I think I'm leaning the Thunder for this series. Yeah, that's where I'm leaning towards my pick. I think it's going to go at least 6, Brandon, and here's where I'm thinking it at. The Cavs should have absolutely beat the brakes off the Pacers, right? And not with any of the injury excuses. I don't want to hear any of that for this. Literally, they should have. But the one thing that Indiana has done this postseason, has done every single series, is be more tough, more physical, make their opponents so uncomfortable that they just seem to, I don't know, forget how to play basketball, for lack of better terms. So I don't think they're going to beat the Thunder outright. I think that series goes 6 games. It could maybe go 7, but I doubt it. But the Pacers have a formula right now that with this hot stretch of basketball they've been on, it's good enough to win multiple games in this finals. Now, can you shut down SGA? Can you shut down all those guys for a whole series? I doubt it. But I think people are understanding the potential for not just a really, really good potential classic when we look down the line, but people are not really giving Rick Carlisle. He won the title with the Mavericks back in the day. People forgetting that? He is a literal NBA Finals winning head coach. You've got that. I forget who is on the sidelines for Oklahoma City. Again, I'm giving the edge to Oklahoma City for this.
It's Mark Dagnall, who is a young coach. Obviously, he's coming of age. He replaced Billy Donovan there a few years ago.
But the thing is that I think people are just counting Indiana out too early. Again, I agree with you. I think Oklahoma City is going to win, but I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think. I think it's going to go to 6 games. There's maybe a chance for 7, but again, I'm very low on that 7. I don't think it's going to go 5 because the way that remember, this Oklahoma City squad is still young. Indiana's a little bit more seasoned, just a little bit. And here's what's the thing, it's crazy. Halliburton's just gone absolutely nuts. He's gone nuts, and they don't ever foul him. Every team, Knicks, Cavs, whoever, they have not fouled him. When he was in foul trouble, what was it, Game 4, Game 5 in that East semi? They did not. He had 2 fouls, and they let him just play out. And he just scored literally what ended up being the difference in the game. 15 of the next 17? That's why I think, you're going to see Indiana push Oklahoma City's, ability to, create shots and be comfortable. But at the end of the day, Oklahoma City is likely going to be your champion. But I do think that the Pacers are going to put up a tougher fight, and it's going to be a really, really good matchup.
Okay, this is where I'll push back, and I agree with you. The Thunder are still young, but so are the Indiana Pacers. Yes, the Pacers have Pascal Siakam, who's a 2019 NBA champion with the Raptors. Guess what? The Thunder also have Alex Caruso, who won the 2020
Well, that's not what I'm talking about in terms of youth. I'm talking about in terms of just playoff experience and how far they've got it.
The Pacers are 1 year older than the Thunder. That's it. It's not much. The other thing is, I'm sorry, this Indiana Pacer team has a March Madness Cinderella feel to them, and the slipper's about to fall off, and this Pacer team is about to fall off. I'm not saying they're going to get blown out every game, because I do think stylistically they match up, and I think it will be close games. But we have seen, and this is where and I try to give Indiana all the credit in the world, because Tyrese Allenberg does have some games, and there are some nights where he can be the best player on the court. But there are also some games, such as Game 3 against Cleveland, Game 5 against the Knicks, where he completely disappears. And I do think if you overwhelm the Indiana Pacers and you get them out of their comfort zone, Oklahoma City is not going to lay off the gas the way the Knicks did, the way Cleveland did, because Cleveland
and that's the way that I think it should go. That's where I just wonder. Like, again, the Knicks and Cleveland both forgot how to completely play basketball, especially when Halliburton, with that Cleveland finale, for literally just went off after he got 2 personal fouls. They did not attack him. They would not go after him. I think the only way that Indiana wins the series is if they somehow have that voodoo BS magic where Halliburton just gets ignored when he gets into foul trouble, and then he just goes off. That is the only way I see Indiana winning this, but they could have... Dude, I kid you not, there's something that feels weird about them, but not in a bad way.
I'm going to post this on the screen here from Josh. He says, I know people are going to say Halliburton and SGA is the key matchup, but he believes it's going to be
Oh, that is good. You know, I actually have to agree with Josh on this.
I actually think the key matchup is going to be the bench. I think I think Oklahoma City and Indiana are very similar in terms of depth. Me and Josh have talked about this a lot. What Oklahoma City can bring, what Indiana can bring. To me, Indiana's key secret has been their bench. Oklahoma City's key secret is their bench depth, where Indiana's key secret is their bench scoring. I think that's the difference. I think that if I'm playing Indiana, you have to essentially force Halliburton, Turner, and Siakam to do all the scoring. And we've seen at times this postseason, Indiana can go cold. And again, I give them a puncher shot. I think they will probably win a game in this series. I do think stylistically they match up with Oklahoma City.
Yeah. I think it's going to go 6. I think it's definitely a finals where you're going to see 6 games.
Yeah, I don't. I am nervous.
And also, let me take the mindset of my athlete sense. Like, this is me. Even if it was baseball or whatnot, I don't care how many games it's going to take. Especially if you're looking for your first title, you are going to do whatever it takes to win. Home, road, etc. You are not going to just sit on your laurels and just be like, oh, we can punt a game. Look at Golden State.
No, I'll push back on that immediately because Oklahoma City did it against the T-Wolves. They punted game 4 or game 3, whichever game that was. I think,
and that's honestly stupid, to be honest. Like it works out for them, but it's stupid.
They did it against Denver game 6. They did it against Denver game 6 too. And by the way, you could tell Indiana did it in game 5 against the Knicks. I know they got back in it kind of in the second half, though not really. The Knicks came out, they played with more energy, and even from the tip, Reggie Miller, Stan Van Gundy were saying on the broadcast that game, Indiana's
that was what I was so happy about that series was that Reggie was on the sidelines as one of the commentators, and that was what I was looking forward to the most. It's like, oh God, give me this.
All right, well, let's talk about this then. Is the super team era over? Now, I know me and you have various different opinions on this, so for this topic, I'm going to let you go first.
Is the super team era? I think when we saw Kawhi Leonard and Paul George team up back when we were still in college, Brandon, and we woke up that morning and we're like, holy crap. Like, I think that was when we started to see them.
2019. There was an earthquake, if you remember, in California that night.
That's right.
And everybody thought Kawhi Leonard signed with the Lakers because that was the rumor. We here at the East Coast, we wake up, we turn on our computer, we turn on our phone, we go, the Clippers?
The Clippers of all teams. And we were like, what? And then and we see Paul George is going with them. And we're like, what? And the Clippers also helped build this current Oklahoma City squad.
Do you remember that same day LeBron and Anthony Davis had set up a meeting for Kawhi Leonard? He reportedly texted them he was stuck in traffic. Meanwhile, he was driving to the other side of LA to go meet with Paul George.
It's honestly ironic because that was probably their best shot, and yet they never were able to capitalize on it. But
and you can make an argument it was due
but
to
I'd
COVID.
say it's been more of an era. Like Cleveland I wouldn't say Cleveland's had a super team outside of like the big 3 that we had back in last decade with LeBron.
I was going to say, if it wasn't for Golden State, that would have been a super team.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm saying overall, I wouldn't say Jarrett Allen is like the superstar, right? there are guys who are like Evan Mobley's getting close, not quite there yet. Darius Garland.
Evan Mobley's there.
You think he's finally you
I don't know about superstar, but to me, in order for the Cavs to win a championship, he has to be your number one undisputed player. I've made that decision.
But on the whole, because I think we've gone more to an era of duos, and we're also seeing guys like Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal, who are entering their early mid-30s, going ring chasing when it doesn't make sense, and then you're seeing all this big roster turnover, which honestly, I think that's a big part of the NBA's problem, especially attracting viewership, is we've seen so much player empowerment to a degree where I agree that players should have some say, but it's been to the point where I barely even remember who's on what roster any given year for the most part. That's why I think the super team era is over, because you don't see these guys sticking around. The first hint of trouble or the first sign that they're about to face adversity, they're gone. Them, the coach, or both.
Well, they can't really do that anymore to the players because of the new CBA. It's hard to form 3 all-stars on one team now. I do think Cleveland, depending on how our guys develop, could be naturally kind of like a Golden State a little bit pre-Kevin Durant.
Well, here's the thing. Kevin Durant signed in a summer where they just had that cap spike, and that was just the perfect set of scenarios, and it's like that team just cheaped out. Like, in my mind, they only had one legit title, and that was in 2021 or 2. It was the last one.
So that was in 2022, and I actually think that kind of started the end of the super team because
and I have to agree, because that was kind of like it was either they win or they lose, and
that was. Let me finish here. That was Steph's team. Clay had been Clay was on the decline at that point. Obviously, Jordan Poole was a really good bench player at the bench. Draymond was declining in terms of his scoring at that point. And then the next year, you had Denver, who had one star in Nikola Jokic, and they had one very good player, Jamal Murray. And then you had your glue guys and your Aaron Gordons, your Jeff Greens, your Christian Bronze. And then obviously last year what we got in Boston, where to me, and I know we may argue on this, but I don't think there's an undisputed best player on that team between Tatum and Brown.
I actually agree with you on that one, because now that I kind of see, like, right now it's really like, no, who is it?
And then they were so deep, obviously, with Porzingis and Derek White and Hauser and Drew Holiday and all those guys. They threw 10 different guys at you. And as I kept saying all last year, 10 guys make 2 threes a game. It was really hard to beat. I'll be honest. I personally, and I know you disagree with me, Fitz, I think this is bad for the NBA.
I think it's bad.
I think it's bad. I think that, listen, we saw it really once COVID hit. It was sort of the Lakers won the bubble, and then it was, Giannis won a championship. Then Steph won it. Then Jokic won it. Now Tatum/Brown won it.
I think we're going to see by the end of this decade. I think we're going to have a three-peat champion, and I don't know who it's going to be. I think we could be looking at Oklahoma City. We could be looking at Cleveland, or we could be looking at another team.
See, I told Josh this. I pushed back on Oklahoma City for this reason. I know everybody's saying, "Oh my God, they have all these draft picks. They're going to improve."
Not from that regard. I'm saying at the end of the decade, I think there's probably 2 current teams right now, maybe one that we don't know of right now, that will have the potential for a three-peat. We only have 5 years left in this decade for NBA Finals, right?
That's what I'm talking about. This decade. What is this decade going to be remembered by? Because I think it's going to be remembered more like the 70s, which is forgettable, to be honest with you. The 80s was remembered for what? Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Lakers, Celtics saving the week. The 90s was remembered for Michael Jordan's 6 rings, but it was always remembered for Hakeem Olajuwon of the Houston Rockets going back-to-back in between when Jordan was not in the league. The 2000s was memorable for many reasons. The Shaq Kobe Lakers, LeBron coming of age, but obviously you had the San Antonio Spurs. Now, they never went back-to-back, but they went, 3 and 5 years or 6 years, whatever that timeline was. And then the 2010s was I thought, to be honest with you, as a fan of the NBA,
It was one of the best eras, like,
maybe
period.
it's because we were involved in it, but I thought it was the best era because we got the LeBron era. We got the best era of the NBA Finals, I think.
I also think this plays a part in it, Brandon, is that we have slightly become jaded as we have become much older, much wiser, and know a lot more things that especially both of us can't say.
Well, listen, as I was getting to my point, though, like we got Cavs Warriors. We essentially got two dynasties going at each other, and one just ended up winning 3 out of 4 times. This decade, you know what we're gonna remember? We're gonna remember it as like, oh yeah, Giannis won that championship, or oh yeah, Jokic won that championship. Now, Oklahoma City, I agree, it does have the potential to become a dynasty, but this is what I told Josh last week. When you look at the Western Conference right now, this is why I'm so hesitant to annoy Oklahoma City and say they will definitely get one more championship.
The West is deep again. That's where it is.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about the teams that are right there. I'm talking about the teams that are coming. I'm talking about what if Houston gets Giannis Antetokounmpo?
That's exactly what I'm thinking. It's like there's a team out there that I think we are underselling right now.
Victor Wembanyama and Giannis. I'm talking about Dallas, right? Kyrie, Anthony Davis, Cooper Flag.
Yeah, those are the teams I'm talking about. Like, there's 2 teams, one East, one West, and one other team. It could be any one of those 3, where I think we could have a potential. Again, it's going to be tough, but I could see a potential 3-peat champion by the end of the decade.
I just think, and I know you're a bigger fan of the small market, and I do agree. It's
and that's why I think for some fans, I do agree with your take where it may be bad for the NBA as a whole, but I think for the average, more casual fan, it's been a little bit better because we're not getting LA every year. We're not getting Boston every year.
But
I think that's a good thing for right now. But now we're heading into that phase where we need the next face of the league, and we need the next faces of the league to be a little bit more, forthcoming. They need to show the results, and they need to be there consistently. And that's where we're going to find out what this current era, especially since we don't know what year LeBron's going to retire at this point, because it could be this summer for all we know, because that's what I'm almost wanting to lean towards.
I agree with you, except for this. I like villains in sports. I think when we root against people, it makes
Kansas City is the one villain I will always
listen. As much as you guys said, "Oh my God, I hated the Patriots dynasty," or "I hated the Warriors,"
honestly, they were so much more likable than the freaking Chiefs.
Like as much as you guys say you hate these dynasties, what did you always want to do? Tune in to watch them lose. Like that. People will say all the time, "Oh my God, I can't wait till this team ends. They're so annoying. They beat my team every year." But you tune in to watch them get their ass kicked. We're here. It's like Oklahoma City, Indiana. Who cares? Like
the Eagles are your number 1, Brandon. And I've been a grown and raised Browns fan who has experienced nothing but pain that he has had developed another sense to be able to determine when the team is about to screw up and lose. And it's barely been wrong.
The problem is everybody hates the dynasty because it depends on what conference you're in. I mean, you're in the AFC, so you feel like you have no shot of winning.
Back to back.
So that is why. But I think overall, it is. I think overall, dynasty.
Patriots are so much more likable because Kansas City's been getting their championships in like bunches right now. It feels like. The Patriots got it over 2 separate stints in my mind, if that makes sense.
We'll talk football in a little bit. We got to stick to basketball because Tom Thibodeau has been let go as head coach of the New York Knicks. And I know you feel strongly about it, so go ahead.
I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. Literally, they have made, outside of the second year under Thibodeau, they have made improvements both in the win column. They've also been able to go deeper into the playoffs. I know that 2 years prior to this one, they were in the Eastern Conference Finals, and 2 of the last 3 years, they've lost the eventual Eastern Conference Finals representative, the Miami Heat, and now the Pacers. Thibodeau was literally the best thing you got, and literally, I'm not saying he's not the best coach in the NBA. Let me just clear that up before I accidentally say something like that. He's not. He is not. The one thing that I don't understand with this is just how the egos are playing out on this, because I know The Athletic, and I haven't been able to read through the whole piece. Apparently, both James Dolan and Leon Rose were on board with this move. We heard that I believe Jalen Brunson wanted Thibodeau back, and the grass isn't always greener on the other side. Just to take a little bit of a phrase, one of those common old phrases that I don't know, like literally there are teams who have just collapsed after a whole change. Like I don't think this is a change that's going to be for the benefit. Like Cavs and Bickerstaff to, Cavs and Atkinson, that's one thing. Going from a proven coach like Thibodeau, and I'm not saying, in terms of a championship, I'm saying a guy who's still shown results over the years, that's a tough sell for me. And if you're a New York Knicks fan, I think you have every right to be angry. And if this backfires, this is going to be worse than probably if anything goes wrong. And I'm going to just make this out of the ballpark comparison. If Craig Breslow were to trade Rafael Devers after all the crap that's gone on this season, it would be like this. It would be, everyone would be ticked off. And I think as soon as something happens next year, as soon as someone's moved, whether it's Cat, whether it's Brunson, whoever it is, because someone has an ego, whether it's a surprise like out of the Doncic page, I think the New York Knicks have lost all benefit of the doubt that they were going to improve, and I think they're going to fall to at least the bottom half of the contender, status. Probably, what I'm trying to say is like they're probably going to be no better than the 10 seed, no worse than the 3 seed, whatever.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Cat here in a few minutes, but I want to address this first. Let me say this. So, Fitz, the Denver Nuggets, right before the NBA playoffs, fired their head coach.
And I hated that. It's just like people have so much of an ego.
He was an NBA Finals winning head coach. And by the way, there were rumors that if he didn't win the championship in 2023, he was going to get fired after that season. Same thing happened in Milwaukee with Bud. They obviously won the championship, then got rid of him a couple years later.
Yeah, Phoenix got rid of their head coach, Monty Williams.
I think what Denver has shown us this finals run, I'll be honest with you, I don't think coaching matters that much in basketball. I think Nikola Jokic coached that Nuggets team. I don't care what anybody says. I think Jokic and Russell Westbrook, for the most part, coached that team. And they took Oklahoma City to 7 games, and you can make an argument. They make a shot here or there. They beat the eventual NBA champions. The other thing is, I think that this was a telltale sign of if the Knicks did not win the NBA championship, they had already made the decision prior to the playoffs that Thibodeau was going to get fired. And I'll throw one more thing at you. What is the difference in resume between Tom Thibodeau and our former head coach, J.B. Bickerstaff? Because I see no difference in resume. And I like Thibodeau.
Well, Thibodeau did have a rose that got depleted very quickly. I'll just give him that little caveat.
But, he hasn't been to the NBA Finals yet. He is seen as a grumpy old man in the building that plays his players very hard. And I do think that the Knicks, they do need to change up stylistically, offensively. And I completely disagree with you about that they're going to fall because I look at the East this year and I am already saying,
it's open because you got the Cavs, Pacers, Knicks, and whoever else.
That's it. I mean, maybe Detroit, but my feelings on their coach.
Oh, we both know they're not going to get that far into the postseason if they can't.
And this is the other thing I brought up. Now that Boston has obviously Tatum's out for the year, I brought this up to Josh a couple weeks ago. Do the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis say, you know what, let's run it back one more year and see what happens?
I say they do. Even without a Damian Lillard, I think the Milwaukee Bucks could be a really interesting team. I'm not guaranteeing them winning anything, but that would be interesting. I think if Giannis follows the route that other stars have done and left the franchise that drafted them, I think he ends up being not anywhere close to being talked about as one of the greats. I'm not saying up there with Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, etc., but he will have a completely diminished legacy. And I know that sounds weird to say, but you cannot, when you win your first title with your original team, and if you can go out and win another, that is so huge. And I think Giannis, if he were to be moved, and I think this is something he's probably weighing, I'm speculating here, speculation. If he moves to another team and then wins a title, I think that diminishes a lot of what he was looking to do through his career, and that's going to be a big red mark on him. He's still going to go to the Hall of Fame, yes, but I don't think he will be remembered in the same way if he just were to stay in Milwaukee nearly the entirety of career, maybe just 1 year at the final season somewhere else.
Oh, I disagree with that completely. I think if he's done everything he could in Milwaukee, if he asked to go to Houston or go to San Antonio and win multiple championships, he will be remembered more.
I don't think
it's
so.
All about championships. That's you know what people say. You know why people say Jordan's the GOAT because he went 6 for 6. It's not that Bill Russell,
but he had to take time off in between. Is where I think again. You can argue the whole ring thing, but that's why I think LeBron
doesn't care about that. That's what
I think LeBron. Let's just take the rings out of it. Take the rings out of it. All right. I think LeBron's just the GOAT based off of the finals appearances. That is something that's.
I agree with you, but I'm telling you what people say in history.
Exactly.
What people will say about Giannis in history is he won more championships out of Milwaukee.
I think he's still got a better shot in Milwaukee because here's the thing: they're going to have to get some. They're going to have to get creative, and it may lead to some difficult decisions, but I think there's still a pathway. Like, who am I trying to think of? Like, what? Didn't Dirk Nowitzki have, he had Steve Nash back in the day. And then they got creative. They ended up winning a title with him, Jason Kidd, and
he was not on that 2011 team. Maybe I was wrong.
No, Jason Kidd? Yeah, Jason Kidd was.
Jason Kidd was on it, but not Nash.
I know. That's why I said Nash way, way back. Before, this was back before he was Suns Nash. So,
all right. Let's talk about another guy here, Cat. So I wanted to bring this topic up because there's been a lot of speculation for a Cat for Kevin Durant trade.
Just say no. Just say no is literally, I'm just jumping in right now. I'm saying no.
So
not because of Kevin Durant's talent, not because of Cat's talent. Kevin Durant, everywhere he has gone the last few years, has ended up going and, sorry for the non-censors, to shit at this point. It's gone to absolute Balobe.
Can you blame Durant for what happened in Phoenix? Durant hasn't been the issue in Phoenix.
No, but he's been part of the problem. I think I think people are not really. At all.
I think here's the problem. The team has traded Durant to be their number one. He's not the number one anymore. He is a number two. If he goes to New York, he would be the number two because he would be in the role that he was with Steph Curry and Golden State. All he would have to do would be to get buckets.
But how many games has he been healthy for the last couple of years? I'm asking legitimately. I'm not asking as
I would say around 65-ish. I can look it up right now and tell you.
Yeah, look it up because I barely ever when I read Sports Center headlines, sometimes it feels like this is just
so this year
it just feels like he's always injured though. That's the problem. And I don't think you can trade a guy like Cat, especially since I don't think Minnesota should have traded him in the first place. I know you and I have disagreed on that. I thought that was a stunner to begin with.
So 2 years ago, he played 75 games.
Mm-hmm.
This past season that just ended, is going to end in 2 weeks. He played 62.
Yeah, how old is Durant? Durant's 36, and he'll turn 37 before the season.
On my birthday, by the way. Me and him share the same birthday, September 29th. So, listen, I think
this were a 33-year-old Kevin Durant, I'd say yes. But when you're having a 37-year-old Kevin Durant, hell no.
I'll throw this at you. They should not do Durant for Cat straight up. However, I do think to be on a championship team, that's where me and you disagree. I think Cat is actually your number 3, not your number 2. I think
Cat's still an integral part. Yes, I don't think I could waver on him.
I would love Brunson, KD, and Cat if all you would have to give up would be picks and Mikal Bridges. That I would do, but I'm not sure Phoenix would do it.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like there are egos that would get in the way at ownership levels between Ishbia and Dolan. Don't know why, just my gut hunch.
See, and I've been hard on Kevin Durant. We all have because of the Golden State situation. But I really think, actually, if you're looking back in Brooklyn, he wasn't the problem in Brooklyn. James Harden got fat, ate Oreos, and said, "Get me out of here." And Kyrie Irving was all on his vaccine.
Well, didn't he do that in Houston first and then got flipped?
But he did the same thing in Brooklyn and said, "Get me out of here."
Problem was Kyrie to a degree because Kyrie Irving, as much as we love him for the shot that he took, I mean, Kyrie just was a distraction.
Well, I got to give him this. Since he went to Dallas, he's grown up a lot and he's talking.
All right, yeah, we can both agree on that.
So the other thing is, in Phoenix, in my opinion, their mistake was not getting Durant. It was trading Chris Paul for Bradley Beal.
Exactly.
Exactly,
because Paul was like, he's your floor general. He is a literal point guard.
And I said at the time, Bradley Beal and Devin Booker's games are too redundant. It's not going to work. I thought it was a bad.
I don't know how they thought that was going to work.
So my point is, I actually think Durant in New York, which is where he should have went in 2019 to begin with, I actually think it works. I'm just going to throw one more thing out there about Durant, which is completely off topic.
Okay.
Fitz, I think you know where I'm going.
I might.
Let's say the Indiana Pacers shock the world and win the championship. Durant back to his old stomping grounds?
Yes, give me. The sin. The sin of the past.
You probably have to give up. I would say Shed Holmgren is who I would want if I was Phoenix.
The price I'd be willing to pay, to be honest.
And this is where it's funny. Me and a buddy that you know, not many people on championship rings probably know this man, but our good friend Austin Arnold from Buck, when I had him on in March, we had this debate about Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren and who the real number 2 on that team was.
Yeah.
He's more higher on Jalen Williams than I am. Mm-hmm. I personally think Chet Holmgren has a higher ceiling. I like Jalen Williams, but again, I think on a championship team, he's probably your 3, not your 2. And so I think I would probably
in Oklahoma City. They definitely win a repeat this decade. I think they would, if they lose this year, let's just say for argument's sake, for that crazy scenario you threw out, I think Oklahoma City will win the next 2 after this year if they were to reacquire Durant and ship out Holmgren as part of the package. They hang on to Williams, honestly, and I think Durant would get a big, not just favorability boost, but a boost to his legacy as well. It's not just because of the rings. He rights the ship, and it's not like the LeBron thing, but because LeBron was from here. Durant was not from Oklahoma City. He's from the D.C. area, right?
The other difference, though, is when LeBron came back here, he was the number 1. Durant would be the number 1 in OKC. It would still be SGA's team.
Mm-hmm. And that's where I wonder, and Sam Presti's a very smart GM. He's had his job for nearly 2 decades at this point.
He's the Howie Roseman of NBA GMs without a Super Bowl ring at this point.
He is.
Without an NBA ring.
This is where I wonder if I'm in Sam Presti's shoes. Does bringing in Durant, whether you win the title or not, and we're saying this under the not scenario, if you don't win the title, does bringing in Durant cause problems? I don't think it should, but that's where Presti's got to ask himself. It's a hypothetical, but again, I don't know what he's thinking because he's someone who's on a completely different plane than both of us.
Let's switch now to the National Football League because this news kind of came out of nowhere, and I think it's a very underrated story, and I think this is a huge deal. That Frank Ragnow retired from the Detroit Lions. I would not think it would be as big of a deal if this was in March, but I think the fact that this happened in June, that the Lions, I know they drafted the offensive lineman out of Alabama in the first round of the draft. I'm blanking on the last name for some reason. But he's a guard. He's not a center. And Frank Ragnow was, by all accounts, right behind Creed Humphrey in Kansas City and Cam Jurgens in Philadelphia, a top 3 center in the league last year. And we know how important offensive line is in the NFL. It's the most underrated position in all of the NFL, just as any smart football fan out there, even you fans out there in our hometown of Cleveland, Ohio, knows what a good offensive line does. You saw the best left tackle potentially of all time for 10 years or however long it was.
Yeah. Thomas. 07 to 6.
So, I know they have Penei Sewell, and I know, their offensive line is still mostly intact, but the center is the most smartest position on the line. It's the most important position on the line. And again, this is not to me, going from what Philadelphia did, where it was Jason Kelce to Cam Jurgens, because Kelce was grooming Jurgens. He had come in, he was there for a year, he played guard. Kelce identified him I think I told you when we drafted him, I literally said, Fitz, that's the next Jason Kelce. And that's not the case here. And I think that, they have a new offensive coordinator. They have a first place schedule. They're coming off a little bit of a disappointing end of the season. Like there is a lot of blink warning signs here for the Lions, and I'm not going to say they're going to go to fourth place in the division and be terrible.
They are not going to go fourth place.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I get where you're going at.
There is a blink sign of a, I don't want to say 2023 Eagles collapse, but just a pullback of like from 14 wins to like 10. And
I think it all depends on the head coach. And
look,
I think it's going to depend on his temperament and how he handles the bumpy, turbulent periods. I think Dan Campbell's going to have to stick to his guns, but he's also going to have to be willing to compromise on some of his values. I think that's the only. I think he's got to be able to evolve because Ben Johnson was very creative. I know Dan Campbell is like, go again, the famous go for the kneecaps. I think he's going to have to take a more measured approach this year if they want to get where they want to go. So I think they're more likely to get 10 wins than they were to get 12 wins if he goes the same way all year, just like he has in the past years. If
what
that
do you
makes
mean
more
by
sense.
a more measured approach? You mean like less aggressive on fourth down?
No, I mean just overall like less bark. Not like it's not bad. Like he's just over exuberant, but like I think he needs to dial it in and be a more composed sideline leader. I think that will help.
This is where I'll disagree on that because I think you have to be yourself. I mean, remember what you just said.
Yeah, you have to be yourself, but I think there is a level where he can dial it back just a touch. I think that wins you 2 games.
What you were saying about Dan Campbell is exactly what every idiot out there was saying about Nick Sirianni midway through last season when Philly fans were calling for his head. And
I was never calling for his head. You know that.
Oh, this is God, your witness. I was the only person in Philadelphia saying, no, this team is so good, they're probably going to win the Super Bowl.
And you were right. But back to Ragnow, though. Let's get back to that before we go off on the whole tangent. Ragnow retiring, I wouldn't compare it even to the Andrew Luck thing. I still remember the place and time I was at.
Oh no!
But it's not Andrew Luck. When you see a guy like this retire early, it's not because, at least in this case, it wasn't because of like a Calvin Johnson thing where like the organization's just like, bleh. And this is funny enough, Lions. But I don't know if you remember this linebacker. He was a 3-time, I think, All Big Ten. I got him pulled up. No, Chris Borland. Do you remember him? He was a Ohio kid. Went to Wisconsin, 3rd round, 77th out in 2014 to San Fran, Archbishop Alter. He retired only after 1 year, and he was a solid player. He had 100 in his only NFL season. He had 107 total tackles, a sack, a fumble recovery, and 2 picks. He was a young, rising player. He's only 34 right now, and he retired after 1 year in the NFL. And I know that was more of a different situation, but I think more of these guys especially are starting to see, with Frank Ragnow, like whatever the issue is with his, whether it's his back or whatever it might be, I think there are players who are starting to realize, and you're starting to see some guys going a little earlier than I think you would think they would.
What concerns me if I'm a Lions fan, I'm just going to put this in a Lions fan perspective. Friend of the show, Jalen Sandvik, who's filled in for Josh before. He's been on my show. The fans know Jalen. He's a huge Detroit Lions fan. What concerns me if I'm a Lions fan is the wording that was used around his retirement, which was he basically told Detroit that, probably not going to retire about 80-20 coming back. And then this week, he got out on the field and he was like, my body cannot take it anymore. And so that's where I'm concerned as a Lions fan. I'm like, we weren't prepared for this. And this was all of a sudden. And listen, as much as every football fan loves wide receivers and running backs and quarterbacks and, the flashy players.
I still feel like the Bengals should have taken a tackle on that 2020 draft, though it's fun to see him. The way I look at it,
hey, who's been to the Super Bowl? That's the argument right there. Now, the Lions didn't get to a Super Bowl, but the Bengals got to one. Listen, the offensive line, my point is the most coherent, cohesive unit on a football field. That even if one person misses a game or whatever, the combination of it could get messed up where it's all about snaps and playing together, which is why it is going to take time. And I don't know if you know the Lions' early schedule or not. It is absolutely brutal. Their first game, they have to go to Green Bay. Their second
And they've
game,
owned Green Bay the last 2 years, and I don't think Green Bay is going to be that much improved, are they?
I think they're going to be greatly improved because I looked at their schedule. I think Alex Wilcox's Packers are winning the NFC North, and I'm very vindicated in that because I think the Lions are going to get off to a slow start. There's a lot of new there. Like I think week 1, Packers have a massive advantage. They're at home. They have all their coaching staff back. Everybody presumably healthy. Detroit has
and they finally picked a first-round wide receiver.
And they did. And Detroit has a new center. Detroit has a new offensive coordinator, a new defensive coordinator. That stuff matters, and it takes time. And then after that, guess who they get to play after week 1? Their old buddy Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears, who I think should be what I thought they were going to be last year, which is a 10-win wild card football team.
I think they're going to be just short of the wild card. They'll get close. I think they are 1 year away from that. They're going to be at least 500 or better, but it's going to be that close, man. I think they're going to be right there on the edge.
Well, and then Fitz, guess who they get to play in week 3?
Oh, joy. Let me guess. It's not Minnesota, but it's going to be Philly, right?
No.
Kansas City.
No. They play them in week 6.
Okay, so it's and
it's in Kansas City. They have to go to Baltimore to play Lamar Jackson and the Ravens early in the year with a new defensive coordinator. Then they get the Browns,
they don't have Justin Tucker anymore. There's that.
Okay, but then guess what? After they play the Browns, that's a win. We'll get in that. Then they have to go to the team we just talked about, the Cincinnati Bengals. And then
the Browns got the worst schedule in the NFL, in my opinion. Worse than Detroit, because even looking at the QB situation, too.
I'll say this. The Giants got it worse. Did you see the Giants schedule?
I don't care about the Giants schedule. All I see is 500, 500, 500, 500, 500, and we're going below.
If you take a look at the Giants schedule, try to find me 4 wins on there. I'll pay you $20. That's it.
All right, I'll do that right now.
It's that hard.
Who do I think the Giants would beat in 2025?
This is an impromptu topic, folks.
Because I'm curious, because I think the Browns are real, unless Flacco goes on full season carpet ride. Let's see. Week 1. I think Dallas is beatable. They lost Zach Martin, right? They lost Zach Martin.
That's week 2. Week 1, they're out Washington.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to say week 2. We'll see about the Chargers. Again,
the Chargers are going to beat the brakes off them.
Yeah, that's probably a game where but again, the Chargers have this history of just always kicking their fans in the you-know-where. Like, New Orleans is obviously, New Orleans for sure. I think they can beat Dallas. I think the Giants can.
I disagree with that. I don't think they match up well.
Schottenheimer. You're telling me you think week 2 Schottenheimer will beat them? As much as I crap on Dable, you think they will?
Yes. In Dallas, yes.
Let's see. Where else do I think? Because they're going to get one big upset win somewhere. Who knows? They could actually beat the Lions in week 12.
No shot.
You don't think someone's going to lose? They're going to either lose that game or the Thanksgiving game. You got to pick one.
No shot. That will be what the Lions did to the Jaguars last year.
But the Patriots, I could see them beating the Patriots depending on how.
No shot. The New England Patriots are making the playoffs this year. They are going to be one of the most improved teams in the AFC. And by the way,
they'll be improved, but they won't be. We mentioned in where things stand. We mentioned the stats that Drake May had definitely taken a jump. But again, I think I see 4 wins on here. I see Vegas. I see New England.
Vegas. Not with Fitzgerald. Oh no, I disagree with you completely.
I think here's why I think otherwise. I think they're going to have a great start for Vegas, and then they're going to get injured to all hell. I think that's what's going to happen. What's
your favorite drink other than water? Do you like Dr. Pepper? Do you like Gatorade?
Lemonade.
Lemonade. All right, I will get you a regular 20-ounce bottle of some lemonade. If the Giants win, I'll put the over-under 3.5.
All right. That's cool with me.
We'll virtual shake on it. And now with that, I want to go ahead and do something real quick that we've never done here at Championship Rings. I did it once for Brainsworth. I'm going to try it out here. On the screen, what you should be able to see, hopefully in 1 second. There
it looks so clean.
Of the Madden 26. Let's see how we do the.
Oh, you just had it up. There we go. It's back up.
Okay.
Back up.
Okay. Let's see. So the cover of Madden 26 is out. That is the dopest cover I've ever seen.
Oh, it is up there. 110% plus, dude. It is.
So Saquon Barkley is on this cover. He's also facing the dreaded Madden curse.
You want to know something, Brandon? In the league I had him in last year that I won my fantasy league, the one that I am the commissioner of, I have an option to keep Barkley as a keeper for this year, but the problem is I don't know if I can do it because of the whole curse. I'm conflicted because I've got I could maybe take Brian Thomas near the end of the draft. There are a couple guys I could still keep Josh Allen for one more year. So I'm debating, what the frick do I do? Because the other
thing is, do you know about this new curse that's been going around?
Oh no, what is it?
The Offensive Player of the Year curse.
Oh
Where
no.
Offensive Player of the Year the last 5 years has missed at least 7 games.
Did Jamar Chase get that the other year?
Well, it was Justin Jefferson started in 2020. Then it was Cooper Kupp. Then Jefferson. Then Christian McCaffrey.
Was it Chase? No.
Yeah, Chase was on there. I think Chase was 2022.
That makes sense as to why my fantasy team collapsed that year when he was out those games. Oh.
So now he's facing the Madden curse and the Offensive Player of the Year curse. The question I have for you, Fitz, facing 2 curses at one time, which we have not seen before, does that equal he's going to break both those curses?
No. One of them is going to stick. I don't know which. But one curse and one curse does not cancel each other out. It's only going to cause problems. I wish I could give you positive news, Brandon. I hope to God he stays healthy because he was fun last year. He was fun.
I said this. Saquon Barkley brought back my love for running backs. I used to think running backs were disposable
and I told you they weren't.
And then all of a sudden, Saquon Barkley goes to my Eagles, and I never had more fun playing Madden in my whole life.
See? NFL running backs are needed. People just need a fresh perspective.
Listen, I know you're not a Madden player, but the Eagles this year were borderline unfair because Jalen Hurts had
it's more that I don't have the system. My brother owns the systems, and it's just some other factors too. But
to make a long story short, they have this thing now called abilities where so great players like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen.
Basically you're able to upgrade them. I kind of get it. It's
they call them X factors, so they make them better.
Oh yeah, dude, we had those back when we played in the COVID year.
Okay,
the Madden tournament.
Basically, everybody in the Eagles had either an X factor or a superstar.
Zach Bond, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley.
Zach Bond had it. Quinyon Mitchell by the end of the year had it.
The Toledo Rocket Maction.
Even Dallas Goedert had a superstar ability. So, I mean, we'll see. The Madden 26.
I hope he's the guy who breaks it. Because if there's a guy who I would hope could do it, it would be him. Because if he doesn't, then we're going to be hurt.
Somebody else had already broken it. It was
what?
1 year. It was Madden 20, and it was Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, duh. Of course it was him.
Because he was on the cover that year. That was the year they won the AFC Championship game, which, funny enough, if you could guess who the cover is on Madden 19 the year before, just take a wild guess.
It's not CMC.
I'll give you a hint. It's not a quarterback.
I know that. Was it a running back? Was it a running back? No, it was
a receiver.
It was a receiver. I should know this. Give me a minute to think. You know what? I'm going to cheat and just not pull up the thing. I'm pulling up the AFC side on ESPN just so that way I can get my memory jogged. because for whatever reason, it's not wanting to come back right into focus.
I'll tell you, Madden 18.
Don't do it. Not yet. Not yet. Not
No,
yet.
don't
Not yet. Hold on. Give
I
me
wanted to tell
1
you
minute.
Madden 18 was so that you can get an idea, maybe.
Okay.
Madden 18 was Gronk.
Oh.
So who was on the cover of 19? 20 was Mahomes. 18 was Gronk.
And you're saying this was a wide receiver, not a tight end, not a running back?
Who was in the AFC at the time.
Oh, God. I think I know who this is, but it was Odell, wasn't it?
Nope, he was Madden 16.
Oh, God, they put him on the cover for that one, too. Gosh darn it.
Do you want another crack, or should I tell you?
No, just tell me, because I know I'm going to be an idiot once I realize who it is.
This guy is the founder of CTESPN.
Oh, because of that. He gave me CTE there.
Antonio Brown.
God.
Yeah, Madden 22, by the way, was Mahomes and Tom Brady.
Oh, man.
Madden 23 was John Madden, because that was the year that John Madden passed away. You
remember the year where you had Peterson and Barry Sanders split when you had the whole fan bracket vote?
Well, that was because they were doing the 360 and then the Xbox One came out. So AP was the cover of the Xbox One. Barry Sanders was the cover of the 360.
Yeah, the funny thing was, I think Danny Amendola was on there for like the Rams originally, or the Patriots, one of the two, or he was on there for one team and then he got traded, and so one team didn't have a rep at one point.
I'll never forget Madden 12, because the fan vote came down to Michael Vick, who at the time was obviously a member of the Eagles, and the guy that made the cover was the Browns running back / fullback, Peyton Hillis.
I mean, he deserved it for that year. I mean, I'm not going to argue semantics on that one.
Let's hope Saquon Barkley stays safe for all our sakes. We will update this.
He's at least a top 2 pick. Not even 10 years ago at this point still. So at least there's hope. But just moderate.
We will update this in Fitz's WTS Part 1, which releases sometime in October.
Remember, your narrative part is Part 2.
We may discuss that. It may be Part 1 this year coming off the Super Bowl.
I am keeping it Part 2 no matter what. You had your end of season Super Bowl because we broke the rules.
Okay, fair enough.
We broke the rules, so you're staying Part 2.
Fair enough. Let's get to baseball, your favorite sport. I added this to the rundown.
The ball game. By the way, it's Cracker Jack, not Jacks.
Wait, it's Cracker Jack?
Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack.
I always say Jack.
Come back. I only learned this in the last 7-8 years. I'm I'm like, oh my God, how did I get it wrong all this time?
Oh my God.
This is last decade that I at least figured it out. Last decade, but I still hear all the people add the S on the end. It's like, I'm like, no, it's Cracker Jack.
Okay, so for those of you that are not used to us here on Championship Rings, and for those of you that are, Fitz is not a fan of professional wrestling, so I replaced our Money in the Bank preview for this weekend with a baseball topic, because Fitz is huge into baseball, and we got a huge series that starts tonight in the Bronx with that cheating porch in right field in New York between the Guardians and the Yankees. Obviously a rematch of last year's ALCS. The Guardians, even though they are in a wild card position right now in the American League, they have won 2 out of the 3 this year so far against the Yankees.
And really right now, this series, it's just about the, first pitch is probably 4, 9, 10 minutes away, give or take. The Guardians already have 2 of 3 from the series they had back in April at home against the Yankees. If they take one game, let's just say that, it's at least a split, but they are only playing 6. So there's not 7 games to really decide a true winner. So you need to take 2 out of 3. Because I've told some of my buddies this, especially my one buddy who's a Yankees fan. I'll leave him nameless on this one. I'm telling people this right now. That New York farm system is so thin. That rotation is injury-riddled to all hell. The Yankees are an absolute paper tiger. They are not going to the World Series. I'm guaranteeing you that right now. I will guarantee you. Yankees will not be in the World Series. And Aaron Judge can be the best hitter on the planet for the rest of the year. Guess what? You need pitching in October, and they only got 2 guys right now. And the farm system is so bad. It's so shoddy this year. They wasted a bunch of that talent to get Juan Soto and failed to retain him. That if you had kept Juan Soto, you'd have a chance with that shoddy rotation, but you don't. You don't. So here's who the two teams I think are your top two favorites are in the American League. I'm not saying they're the World Series winners. They're in the AL Central. They're Cleveland and Detroit. One of those two are going to represent the AL in the World Series this fall. Book it.
Can I ask, because listen, I agree with you. I think the Guardians are better than what the fan perception says, but this team has not really kicked into gear yet. What do they need? Is it just as simple as get Bieber back?
It's about, well, you and I think we talked back when I was last on this show. Bazana was going to be a big key. He still could get up by the end of this year, but I don't think so with the injury. You need to get, number one, Chase DeLauder is a really talented guy, but John Kenzie Noel needs some more consistent at-bats. You need to put him down in AAA, not because he's bad. He is a really, really good ball player, but the problem is they're not giving him any at-bats, and I'll give him the credit on this. Nolan Jones has looked great again. Finally, he started to figure it out, get some confidence back.
Hopefully,
here's where you have to move some things around. Defensively, Lane Thomas is going to have to go to right field if he's still on this roster past the deadline. You cannot play him in center because that's just taking a toll on him, and you can see it plain as day. Second base is going to be a big question. The Guardians and Tigers, compared to the Yankees, have much deeper farm systems, and especially having the number one overall pick last year, a team that has the number one overall pick, just in general, is able to really restock a farm system, assuming they're not of the tanking variety. And Cleveland was able to do that. Detroit can take two big swings, whether it be for two arms. I doubt they would need two arms. But if, let's say, for God forbid, someone else goes down, they can take a swing at both an arm and a bat. For Cleveland, it's really hard to say, but I think they can take one big swing at a pitcher. They're not going to be a superstar. As much as I want Paul Skeens, I know that ain't happening. But there is a Pirates pitcher that I think folks out there should be really, really focused on. Mitch Keller. He has only got one win, but wins and losses are basically BS in baseball at this point. What I judge players on, especially on the starting pitching side, is quality starts, which is at least 6 full innings pitched and 3 earned runs or less. Not 3 runs, not 4 runs, 3 earned. Earned runs are the key here. So you can give up 4 runs and have 3 earned. That's still a quality start. Keller has had 12 starts through the 30th of May. He has 9 quality starts, and they have lost, and he had a bunch of quality starts during the month of May. He is locked up long-term on a extension. He is a guy that you would take a swing for. And I know it would deplete some of the depth. The only 2 players you do not trade in that Guardian system are obviously Travis Bazzana and youngster Angel Janao. I think I pronounced that right. He's been a fast riser, and I've been reading up and I've been watching more of him. It's like, that guy is going to be your future superstar, developed and homegrown. Like, that kid is something. He is going to be good. So those are the only 2 guys you don't move. But if you can acquire a Mitch Keller, I'm only saying this because you don't know what you're going to get out of Shane Bieber, right? I hope he's back to Cy Young caliber. You hope that Tanner Bybee will piece it all together, have some less pressure on him, maybe by having a Bieber back. You hope that Gavin Williams continues his progression and all that, but you can never have enough pitching. And I think Keller, if you bring him here, he's already succeeding in Pittsburgh. They have a anemic offense. I think if you bring him here, it changes the dynamic completely. Again, you only have one big swing compared to 2 for Guardians versus what the Tigers can do with your farm system and what talent you might have to ship out on your major league roster. But the Yankees don't have that. They have not a ton of depth, and their prospect depth is very, very shaky beyond George Lombard. That's it.
Let me ask you this. I know you have been back and forth on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call Eli Musk's platform now.
Twitter, aka X. Sorry, Elon.
On Carlos Santana versus Josh Naylor.
I've not been back and forth. I've been on the Santana train the whole time. I've just been trying to educate people.
No, I'm saying you've been back and forth with the fans. I know you haven't been per se back and forth.
I think I have finally won the war, Brandon. I have finally done
what,
it.
What I am asking you is, I understand where you're coming from stat-wise. Do you think, because I feel this way personally, and tell me why I'm wrong, they don't necessarily miss Naylor's production. I do think they miss his presence in the clubhouse. I think they miss his excitingness, his energy. I thought he brought a attitude, a pizzazz, a toughness, a fire to that team that they don't have right now.
I think maybe you could have a point. I'd lean against it, but you really don't miss his production. Literally, Carlos Santana has already won you more games than Josh Naylor would have if he was on this roster. Let me say why, though. The patience, the walks. And I want to give you this very scary parallel here because I'm pulling it up. I posted this 2024 Naylor through 19 games, 2025 Naylor through 19 games. I'm going to be pulling that up in just a second for you. I want to make sure I have it because it was shocking because I was doing some research and I'm like, this is around the time where he started to dip in Arizona. Yes, he has a high batting average, but batting average is not the main indicator anymore. You see the Guardians and some teams shifting more to OPS. But Naylor, let me see. Naylor, 19 games. I need to get that. I'm researching that right here. Here's the funny thing.
Go ahead.
Through 19 games in 2024, this was his batting average, on-base percentage, slug percentage, and then I'm also going to list the OPS. 323 BA, 403 OBP, 569 slug for a 972 on-base plus slugging. You want to guess his numbers for 2025 through those same 19 games?
They're the same.
324 batting average, 1 point higher than last year. 402 on-base percentage, 1 point lower than last year. 5.577 slug, about 8 points higher than last year. Baseball Reference did round up, I think, a little bit, though, on that number. It was like one of those wonky numbers for a 980 OPS. And then Naylor in 2024 finished with 1.5 WAR with a slash line of 240, 320, 456. Naylor's well below 300. He only hit, 2 home runs, I think, during the month of May? After that May 19th, I don't think he hit another home run for more than a month. And I know that. No, this year. He did not hit a home run after that.
Well, it hasn't been a month yet. It's only been 2 weeks after May 19th.
No, I'm saying after April 19th of this year. April. Okay. April. Okay. He went on a power. Yes, he's got some RBIs. That helps. But that's a hitter's ballpark in Arizona. And I've probably said this before on this show. Naylor is a good player. He's not a superstar. He's not a big-time star. He's a really good player who can have an all-star caliber year or two. He had one. The problem is that the weight gain plus the injury he had happen with him in the outfield in Minnesota in 21 are going to limit his career. And it's honestly, in my perspective, limited what he's able to bring on the field because he chases a lot. And that's where, with Kansas City and Jack Caglione, I'm excited to see his prospect debut. But that's where things could get dicey for them because Kansas City has the fewest home runs in all of baseball, 34. They have 34 home runs. For comparison, just the other day, Shohei Ohtani, 22. That tells you how bad they've been in the power department, that they had to bring up Caglione. Yes, he was smashing the ball out of the park, but he's still got a weakness chasing, and that's where Naylor just cannot lay off. He's been chasing, and he hasn't improved that plate discipline. And you're going to see Naylor I think Santana's going to at least be 2.5 times more WAR by the end of the year, regardless if he's still on the Guardians roster or not, than Josh Naylor will be for Arizona.
You heard it here first, folks. Fitz is predicting either Detroit or Cleveland make it out of the AL this year. That's all the time we got, though, for Night Championship Rings. Thank you, Fitz, for filling in for a ill Josh Ungar, as we did talk.
And Josh, hope you feel better, buddy.
Absolutely. We talked all things NBA, NFL, MLB. 1 week. I'm back next week on Championship Rings. We're going to be doing it on Thursday, as I will not be here on Tuesday, and neither will Josh. So we'll be back in 9 days, where at that time, Game 3 of the NBA Finals will wrap up and we'll dive into other things in our sports. For Sean Fitzgerald, the host of the Fitz on Sports podcast at Voltage Live, I'm Brandon Lewis, the host of Brandon's World, the sports director of Voltage Live. We'll see you next week. And
Later, folks.